All right, folks, my name is Dr. Dean McClelland. Today, I wanted to talk briefly about this cool topic called what is AMIT? AMIT stands for Advanced Muscle Integration Technique. And on this really brief webinar, we're going to talk about how it works, like how does it work, and why it has been proven to be very effective for certain conditions. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that this is a cure-all for all different things. Obviously, the human body is unique, but for certain biomechanical conditions, common injuries, AMIT has been very effective in helping people function, heal, boost performance, all those fun things. So I'm going to try to keep this very precise, 7 minutes, give you an overview of how AMIT works and why it works. So to start with, we look at the brain-body connection. You think obviously the brain sends signals down through your spinal cord, down to your body to tell your body what to do. A lot of people know that. Obviously, that's pretty basic. And it's the same thing is that there's always signals coming from your body up to the brain. So it's like this feedback system. It's just like the electrical panel in your house. It's the electrical system that keeps everything functioning and doing what it needs to do. Well, it's the same principle that happens within your human body. As you look at the nerve system is very similar to a circuit panel. Now, this gives a more detailed description of, you see the brain here sends this pink line, this nerve down through the spinal cord, which is there on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, over into the muscle to tell the muscle what to do. And there's obviously signals coming back up to the brain. So that's the way it works. That's obviously how we're able to move and perform and all those things that are really a lot of fun. Well, the problem is with injuries such as car accidents, sports injuries, or repetitive injuries through sports, or repetitive postures like sitting in front of a computer, driving long distances, being in that seated position, or now more commonly, repetitive postures like texting with social media, phones, tablets, all that kind of things. Or again, another hot topic is concussions. Is with all those different types of injuries, and obviously there's many unique type of injuries, what happens at the core, if we go back to this brain-body analogy, is that communication gets disrupted when it comes to injury. Just like that circuit gets shut down. Now, a rule of thumb is if there's been an injury, like a sports injury, a car accident, typically before in the 6-week period of time is typically, as a practitioner, we're looking right at the site of injury where it hurts. If it's beyond 6 weeks, what happens is your body's so good at compensating is that typically the body tries to find movement or tries to find compensations in different ways. So it's very similar in terms of with a car, is if the alignment is bad, you're going to see the symptom is going to be the tires, just like this car. It's got bald tires, is that the tires are going to wear down prematurely or quickly. Well, the same thing can happen within the human body is if things are not doing their job, if circuits are not doing their job, it can show up as biomechanical changes. That's when it gets a little bit tricky, is because your body is very good at compensating. So the AMIT method, really the key of the AMIT method is the first thing is to find out which areas of your body, which circuits, so to speak, are functioning well. But then really the most important thing is identifying where the discrepancies are. What circuits are not functioning well. As like I tell my patients, is we need to find out which circuits are working well, but which circuits have been on permanent coffee break and get them functioning better. So going back to this circuit breaker analogy is what the AMIT method, how it works is that the first thing to assess is what we call C1 functions. That's the top of the neck. It's the master control system. It's just think about it's kind of the main circuit breaker to your house, is that's checking that C1 function. Again, we have a different webinar that maybe goes into that a little bit more detail, but this is kind of the first area that we look at. The second, there's a primitive reflex called the cross-crawl reflex. A lot of life is one arm goes forward, the other leg goes back. So we want to make sure that that reflex is very efficient. So just like walking, swimming, we want to make sure that that reflex is working properly. And then we can go through and test all the different muscles, i.e. test all the different circuits to identify which ones are working and which ones aren't. And obviously evaluate the spine, because the spine in a sense holds the nerve system. And if the nerve system, if the spine is not moving freely, then obviously that can cause a whole host of other problems that we want to avoid. So how does AMIT work? How does it get that connection back? Well, they've identified, and again, the AMIT method was developed by two doctors. One, his name is Dr. Alan Beardall, which he was the pioneer of finding all the different reflex points and specific levels of the spine in terms of to get these circuits turned back on. Unfortunately, he died in a car accident back in the late 80s, but his work was passed on by Dr. Craig Bueller, who is in a sense the founder of AMIT as we know it today. How this technique works is that there's 7 specific reflex points, and they're all neurologically linked throughout the body, which in a sense gets the brain its attention to almost reset the circuit. In addition to that, there's very precise chiropractic adjustments or precise levels of the spine that we stimulate to get this connection back. And so this gives you just a very general framework of what an AMIT protocol would look like. So this is your glute max muscle, your butt muscle, which is a very common muscle that a lot of people don't have working properly, especially people that may have hip or low back pain. And as you can see on the left side is these are the parts of the muscle that we stimulate, and then where we have these blue dots are the different reflex points that are very specific and a lot of times can be a bit sensitive. Some of them are actually acupuncture points that we stimulate without needles, with actually hand pressure, and then the specific levels of the spine to adjust to get the body working better. So this is another example of it. This is more of a shoulder muscle, a very common shoulder muscle called the supraspinatus, which a lot of people that have rotator cuff tendonitis, that this is a muscle that is not doing the job, but you can see that there's different reflex points and different levels of the spine that we need to address. So the great thing about AMIT is that there's testing, then there's activation where we actually turn that muscle or turn that circuit back on, and then we can retest. So it's very objective to be able to see, are we getting better balance, better function, more stability within the human body. So the other question that a lot of patients have, well, does it hold? Like, how does it work? Do we have to keep reactivating these muscles again and again? And in my practice, and I can obviously attest to what happens in my practice, 90 to 95% of the time is that the muscle will hold and we don't have to reactivate it again. So you might be wondering, well, what happens to the other 5 to 10%? Well, typically that 5 to 10%, there's 2 reasons why the muscle will not hold. One of the most common reasons is because the body's not able to create enough stability. So whether or not if the tendon is fully ruptured or if a hip joint is completely arthritic and the body just cannot create a lot of stability. So it's also helpful to know diagnostically typically those cases that we refer out, because again, if we can't fix the structure unless it's surgical or something along those lines. The other contributing factor can be actually identifying a nutritional deficiency, and there's actually specific nutrients for specific muscles. Again, that's another topic for another day, but like I say, the point is that 90-95% of the time we are able to make great change in terms of helping those muscles fire, help to create stability, which has been a lot of fun incorporating this into my practice. So if you want to have more information, or if you're interested in booking an AMIT assessment, all you need to do is there's a button below this video. You can click on it to have more information. When I say to book an assessment, what will be, there'll be a quick little survey that will pop up to give us a little bit more information as to how we can help you. Thank you so much for watching. You have an awesome day.